Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra. In Kumasi, we're on Love 99.5 FM and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on A1 Radio in Bolgatanga, Clelam Radio in Bato. We're on Kekeli Radio in Ho. Radio Wa in Wa, and also you can go digital on Spotify and myjoyonline.com app. We are also live on Facebook this afternoon.
Actually, time is not on our side. And I believe that government is coming to that reality. That in itself is positive. Let's not take it that going to the IMF is a sin that cannot be forgiven.
This afternoon, Ghana is to begin engagement with the International Monetary Fund as the country seeks the fund's support for an economic program. What informed this? We have a complete breakdown of this and what lies ahead for you. Also this afternoon, MPP majority in Parliament describes directive by former President Mahama to NDC MPs not to support non-concessionary loans as a clear attempt to sabotage government business.
Much as they are desperate for power, they should also look at the country and the effect of their actions. It's a real political sabotage, nothing else. It can be led.
We have details of that also this afternoon, but an aide to the former president says demands on the $1 billion syndicated loan do not make economic sense.
If you put these two components together to form the $1 billion, we will pay an additional $438 million in cost. It is simply mind-boggling. It is crazy. It does not make sense.
In sports,
FIFA introduces semi-automated offside ahead of the World Cup that will be happening in Qatar later this year.
Also, scores of Ghana card applicants plead for more time to link their bank accounts with a card as policy limiting the operation of bank accounts in Ghana takes effect today. And in our Drive Safe campaign, we'll take you to the Ahafo region where an accident has claimed 7 lives.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
We have more as the fire service sent to rescue those involved in that accident also got involved in another accident.
The fire tender with 7 officers on board on reaching a T-junction, the driver of the tender lost control of the steering wheel and crashed into a Kia Frontier truck.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News with me, Emefa. Apawu, many thanks for choosing us. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism.
We are not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not. The consequences are there. We are a proud nation. We have the resources. We have the capacity. Don't let anybody tell you. Like when Joshua, Caleb, and the 10 others went to spy on the promised land. And only 2 of them came to say that we can do it. And the 10 went around the community murmuring, you can't, We are not people of short sight, and we have to move on. Okay? So let's think of us as who we are, a proud, strong people, the shining star of Africa, and we have the capacity to do what we want to do. If only we can speak that one language and ensure that we burden share in the issues ahead.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking just weeks ago. This afternoon, we are told that Ghana is set to begin engagement with the International Monetary Fund. It's a sharp U-turn from the earlier position that we've seen from the Finance Minister and, of course, the President that we are not going back to the IMF. We have a statement from the Information Minister, Kojo Nkrumah, on this. George Riafe, editor of Joy Business, joins me in studio with it. What does it say?
Well, if you go through a statement issued and signed by Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah, it says that the President of the Republic, Nana Akufo-Addo, has authorized the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to commence formal engagement with the International Monetary Fund, inviting the fund to support an economic program put together by the government of Ghana. Now, this follows a telephone conversation between the President and the International Monetary Fund Director, Kristalina Gogiva, conveying Ghana's decision to engage the fund. At a meeting on June 30, 2022, Cabinet indicated its support for this decision. Now, the engagement with the fund will seek to provide balance of payment support as part of a broader effort to quicken Ghana's build back to in the face of challenges introduced by COVID-19 pandemic and recently the Russia and Ukraine crisis. And this is a statement signed by Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah.
Thank you very much, George Wiafe. You would stay with me. I'll bring in my colleague Kofi Minta also on this shortly. But let me quickly go over the phone because you heard us this week been speaking to Professor Godfred Bopping amongst others, other economists on this as well. They had mentioned that we had no option than to go back to the IMF in spite of government stance on the issue that we are not going back to the IMF. Homegrown policies is the way to go for us. Professor Godfred Bopping thankfully joins us on the line. We're grateful for your time. So you had maintained that by July the centre may not be able to hold. Today, after cabinet meeting yesterday, government or the president has directed the finance minister to initiate talks. Amongst others, we are to have an economic program put together by the government of Ghana on this. What for you will be your immediate reaction to this? I know you saw this coming, but what should we be going into these talks with the IMF with?
Well, thank you very much. I think that it's a positive step, and I want to commend government for taking the bold decision in the face of all that has been said and their previous position. I think that we are at the point where, as a country, this is not to divide ourselves. This is not to do the blame game. This is a time to rally behind government and collectively, because there isn't anything in any IMF program that they will come and do for us. We have to do it ourselves. And you remember, it's going to be Ghana government program supported by the IMF. So we ourselves must come to the table, the negotiation table, with a plan to be supported by the IMF. So by and large, as you said, I am not surprised. In fact, our prediction was that by September, I don't think that we were going to have anything to hold on to. And if you look at our reserves and all of that, but I don't want to say that anybody has won in this particular case in terms of predictions. I think it's Ghana that has won. And when I say so, it's not because going to the IMF is a panacea to all our problems or it's salvation in itself. That is not. Because if we examine all the programs that we've had with the IMF, we've had our own shortcomings. A number of times the programs have failed to deliver on their intended outcome. It may not be solely the fault of the IMF because we as a country must resolve to do that which we ought to do, that we failed to do, that now we have to do in a painful way. But let me also say this. There are relatively well-run economies that still go to the IMF for support, okay, for one way or the other, either standby credit arrangement, policy support instruments, or rapid credit facility, as we did in 2020, and all of that. But what I see from this is that willingness to open up to alternative ideas on the table. And what government must do is to embrace inclusivity in this approach and bring many views on board and strike the necessary collaboration with the opposition in parliament, with Ghanaians that, you know what, we have been here many times. And it's not strange. Look, Ghana has visited the IMF many more times than the average couple has visited the labor world. So it's more predictable that we're going to go to the IMF. And if you look at the data, since Ghana officially joined the IMF on September 20th, 1957, we've been there 16 times in program base.
But Professor Bopping, quickly, if I may come in.
COVID-induced,
If I may come in, Professor Bopping, so to the extent that the benefits of this decision will begin to kick in after several months, there are those who say that we are a little too late. And by this, are we also admitting that Ghana is broke?
Well, look, when we said that we were heading dangerously and we said that our economy may collapse, it wasn't like we didn't have love for this country. There's a certain level of objectivity that you can infer from the data. Forget about our own political ideologies and differences and the interpretation we bring to bear on the data. But if you are driven by the data, largely you're going to be on course, right? And this is not strange. In 2014, somewhere January or February, our current vice president, when he was in opposition, had looked at the same data and made some predictions, right? So you can look at the data and you see where you are heading towards. I mean, given the fact that we had failed on our own to do the needful, and I'll tell you why I agree that it's a bit too late. The optimal time to have gone for this program was actually 2021. And I was expecting that in the 2022 budget, some kind of announcement would have been made, right? It would have been easier for government to blame going to the IMF on the back of COVID and all of that. So once government failed to take that decisive decision, and the fact that there weren't enough fiscal-based reforms in the 2022 budget and all of that, then the outcome cannot be unpredicted or unexpected.
Okay. Well, Professor Godfred Bopping, we are grateful for your time here on the Midday News. Subsequently, we'll interact more on this. But there's reaction from Parliament on this. Parliamentary correspondent Kwekwa Sante joins us on the line with what's happening in Parliament on this latest development. But he's been interacting with a ranking member on the Finance Committee, Yato Forsin.
I saw it coming long ago. I know the government intended to evade what is obvious. But the reality is obviously, it's clear that they had no other choice than to do an IMF program. Overall, I think it's refreshing, but the simplest thing is to authorize an IMF program. The most difficult one is getting a program. So I only wish them well, that they've initiated the process, but it doesn't end there. We are going to have some months, maybe 6 months of negotiation, and I pray that negotiation will be done in the interest of the country and is going to support the growth of the country going forward. But let me say that unfortunately, as a result of the fact that the government decided to delay in taking such an important decision, it has cost the nation and it will cost us even more going forward. I say this because in 2014-15, when we took the decision to go to IMF in the previous administration, one major thing that you don't see in that one was the fact that our debt was sustainable. Today, our debt is unsustainable. So you could see that particular one is going to mean a lot in the program that they were. I won't say more, but in the coming days, I'll come out with what is going to likely to happen. And I know it's certainly going to happen because if they had taken the decision in the year 2021, when I signaled that they should have gone to IMF, at that point, our debt was somewhat sustainable.
That's the ranking member on the Finance Committee, Atu Forsin. Yesterday, former President John Mahama took a swipe at government, expressing concern about the government's refusal to go to the IMF.
It is evident, therefore, that the solution to the problem lies with taking the bold steps to restructure our debt, to get some relief from pumping far too much revenue into debt servicing on an annual basis and channeling the savings into priority areas that will benefit our people directly. The Akufo-Addo administration knows this too well, but political posturing, empty grandstanding, and a morbid fear of their own pedestrian politicking around less serious problems of the recent past have immobilized and frozen them into action. Inaction which continues to run our economy aground and worsening the living conditions of our people by the day. And with this, I'm referring to their criticism of my administration when we decided to go to the IMF. They said it's only lazy governments that go to the IMF. And I mean, the words they said in that past have come to haunt them. So one of the reasons why they're afraid to go to the IMF is that what they said in the past will follow them.
That's former President John Dramani Mahama yesterday. Well, just this week, my colleague George Rafe is still with me in the studio. We've been hearing from the IMF on this decision by other countries to join them and how they are waiting with arms wide open. George, tell us more about what Kristalina Gogiva has been saying.
So at an engagement in one of her previous recent visits to some member countries, she gave us the understanding that as a fund, they are ready to help countries that are going through problems. And remember, during this COVID, they were able to put some money together for member countries. And some member countries, because they were quite strong, didn't take advantage of that. So they've actually restructured this fund and they're having over $70 billion available to support countries that would have to come to them. And she was arguing that, listen, if you're having problems with debt, you're having problems with investor concerns, come to the fund, and the fund is ready to support any member country going through that challenge.
Where we are today is a very dangerous zone. Why? Because multiple factors, supply chain interruptions, the war in Ukraine, are putting pressure on prices. We need inflation under control because price stability is critical for growth. So at the IMF now we are working hard to anticipate which of our members may face balance of payment constraints, and I can tell you we are ready to step up. We have 700 billion lending capacity, and we would deploy as much as necessary. And actually, I tell our members that are with high level of debt, don't wait. Move towards programs that would help you protect your economy. Because when capital leaves and nothing comes to guarantee stability, then countries may find themselves in a very, very tough spot. But I want to be very honest with all of you. We are for some tough time this year, next year, because of this tightening of financial conditions and the consequences of it. And let me just say one thing. The very best service we do to countries is to help them have prudent macroeconomic management, because then investors trust that this is a good place to put money in.
That's the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Gogiva, there this week. But, George, we have expressed intention, or at least the President has directed the Finance Minister to initiate processes for us to go back. What will be the steps we'll have to go through for us to finally, be part of the fund?
So, after this direction to have that formal engagement, it should be followed by what they will call a letter of intent, signed by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, stating, what do you want from the fund? And as I tried to explain earlier on, the fund is pushing this new agenda where programs should be owned by the country making the request. So make a proposal to us how you want to stabilize the economy, and then we'll give you your stamp of approval. So the engagement will be going on, Emefa, and it could take about maybe 6 months or maybe 8 months or even a year before that official program can kick off. Hoping that if everything's are held constant, we may have a smooth negotiations. We may have a bumpy negotiation, or even maybe the last minute government will say, you're not doing it again. So it's not just the fact that you've written and then unless you have a program. It will take a while, maybe maximum a year before a program could take off.
Okay. Joy Business Editor, George, we are grateful. But in that statement, we know that government was not specific on what program we are going for. And that part of the statement mentioned that we are inviting the fund to support an economic program put together by the government of Ghana. Kofi, what are we looking at? What's your understanding of the checks that we've done so far?
Right, Emefa. So there are at least 9 available IMF programs, and it's unclear which one Ghana will go in for this time, just like you said. But what we know is that we've had 16 IMF programs, and the last 6 since 1988 have been the extended credit facility. So out of the 9 programs I spoke about, Ghana has gone in for 3 of them. One of them is the standby arrangement. We also went in for the extended fund facility and the infamous extended credit facility, which is the ECF, fund that we went in for the last time in 2015, Emefa.
Well, thank you very much, Kofi J. Minta there. We've been talking about that statement issued by the Information Minister, Kojo Nkrumah, on this, and I will take it again in case you missed it. It says the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has authorized Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to commence formal engagement with the International Monetary Fund, inviting the fund to support an economic program put together by the government of Ghana. This follows a telephone conversation between the President and the IMF Managing Director, Ms. Kristalina Gogiva, conveying Ghana's decision to engage with the fund. At a meeting on June 30th, 2022, Cabinet indicated its support for the decision. The management with the IMF will seek to provide balance of payment support as part of a broader effort to quicken Ghana's build back in the face of challenges induced by the COVID-19 pandemic and recently the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, we stay on issues relating to the economy. This time, the National Petroleum Authority has restored the Unified Petroleum Price Fund. The UPPF was reduced by 9 pesos together with some 3 other margins in April this year as the price of fuel started rocketing. Prices of some petroleum products were expected to go down following a downward trend in crude prices on the international market. But in a letter to industry players copied to the Ministries of Energy and Finance, the NPA explained the restoration takes effect today, July 1. Head of our energy desk, Raymond Aqua, joins me with details of this letter. First, tell us which 4 margins were reduced in April.
So, in the 31st March 2022 letter, the main ones that were targeted are the UPPF, Unified Petroleum Price Fund, the primary distributing margin and fuel marking margin, and also the bust margin. And they were told clearly in that letter that this was to be from April 1 to 30th of June 2022, which is yesterday.
Well, but also we know that you have to run us through the products that are affected by this restoration.
So if petrol actually had UPPF of 20 pesos, it's been restored to the 29 pesos previously, and diesel had 20 pesos too, it's been restored to the 29. Kerosene had 21 pesos, it's been restored to 30, and LPG had 18 pesos, it's been pushed back to the 27 that it was, and MGO local had 17, that's also gone up to the 26 pesos.
But we know how this is likely to affect prices by the end of this weekend. Would be joined shortly by the Vice Chairman of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana, Gabriel Kumi, on this. But I'll stay a while longer on issues relating to petroleum. And former Vice Chairman of the New Patriotic Party in Central Region, Eko Ewusi, is asking a Tema High Court to impose prison term on the Deputy CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, Perio Kujeto. He wants 4 others, including naval officers, to be given the same sanctions for allegedly disobeying a court order in relocating 1 million litres of adulterated fuel said to be worth at least 10 million cedis. The NPA argues the vessel that brought the product into the country was not licensed, but Mr. Ewusi insists he has a valid court order to sell the fuel. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins me in studio with details. Joseph, who are the individuals Mr. Ewusi wants punished?
So Perio Kujeto, as you mentioned, who is Deputy CEO at NPA. There's also David Kanga, who also works at the NPA, and Commodore Samuel Walker, Commander in Nkrumah, and Michael Duvo of the Western Naval Command.
And the allegations specifically against them are?
It says he had a court order to auction the products. The NPA entered an appearance and filed a process asking that the auction process be put on hold, even though it was virtually completed. But even before the court could hear this, he alleges these officials caused the product to be moved from the location he was aware of.
And what has the NPA been saying about this?
The NPA maintains that the vessel that brought the product was not licensed, hence it had a mandate to move in to take custody. Abdul Kudus Mohammed is the communications director of the NPA.
It's supposed to be the party in court. What is of interest is that by the Constitution of Ghana and the act that establishes the National Petroleum Authority, we are mandated to first of all license you to bring a product into Ghana. When you bring the product by our license, we are again mandated to determine the quality and suitability of it for the market. And when we are satisfied with all of this, then you can now get into the market with the product. But per our record, we're convinced that we never license the vessel to bring such product into the country. And our preliminary investigation has actually determined that the product is not of the required standard of specification that it needed to meet before it could be brought into the country.
How then did you proceed? Because you are now being accused of interfering with the court process.
All of these things happen on our blind side. Because ordinarily, you would have expected that the NPA would have been playing a party in all of these court processes because, like I stated from the beginning, the Act actually mandates us to take custody of anything contraband relating to fuel.
Mohammed Kudus there speaks for the National Petroleum Authority, taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, in Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. When we return, we'll hear from the NPP majority that are describing directive by former President Mahama to NDC MPs not to support non-concessionary loans as a clear attempt to sabotage government business.
Much as they are desperate for power, they should also look at the country and the effect of their actions with a real political sabotage, nothing else. It can be led.
Yema Wakwaba, ba Akwaba Magic Ebusia, brand new channel, Tia Roba, Emuno Chiao, Ewo DSTV channel 149, and Go TV channel 108. Enianom Akwaba Magic Ebusia, Eddie Nidia Ghanaian programs mu Baufi, Every to set the day, to have and to hold, and Yom Senior Cassia, series, any talk show, Bemo Account TV set Nichi, Akwaba Magic Ebusia, Ewo DSTV access to your 50 Ghana cedis per, and Go TV value, to your 25 Ghana cedis per Ebusia, Akwaba.
Time for sports on the Midday News.
Emefa FIFA has announced that semi-automated offside technology will be used at the FIFA World Cup 2022, scheduled to start on November 21. FIFA, in a statement, revealed that the ball is going to have 12 cameras dedicated to tracking the movement of the ball, and they said that it's supposed to capture the movement of each player 50 times per second, calculating their exact position on the pitch. They added that the 29 collected data points include all limbs and extremities that are relevant for marking offside calls. This is what is coming from FIFA.
Thank you very much, Muftau. Now, scores of Ghanaians who still don't have Ghana cards are pleading for more time to link their bank accounts with a card. Government's policy requiring bank account holders to use only the Ghana card as a source of identification took effect today, with some persons unable to withdraw funds from their accounts. At the El Sports Stadium here in Accra, from where my colleague Kojo Brace is reporting, says many are still in the process of obtaining the card. He joins us live. Kojo, what's been the situation there?
Emefa, if you come to the airwalk now, you see hundreds of people queuing here just to get access to their card. Some tell me that they've been through this process for more than a year. I spoke to one man who says he applied for the card in 2019. He's not got a card till today. Yet the bank say, as of today, without linking his account to the Ghana card, he cannot transact. And he's asking who's blame or who should be taking that blame. Another young man says he's been here from Monday till today. He's still not been able to get it. But there's one sad story of a woman. She's old. She's called, she says she's a pensioner. She's been going up and down for the past year. Just to have access to her card, she's not been successful.
Because they said without it, we cannot even transact any money through bank, mobile money and them things. So, but they have to extend the date because it doesn't make sense. When you came, you can see a lot of people over here. Some are even at home. They are still not here. But you can't tell us that today you'll be ending the process. So they have to extend it. They should make it at least by the end of the year. They should end everything. But instead of them to push us that they are doing it, it's a pressure. Because right now, we've been here since Monday.
Scenes from the El Sports Stadium, people wanting to get their Ghana card. Now, Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has described as a clear attempt to sabotage government business the directive by the former President John Mahama to NDC MPs not to support non-concessionary loans requests by government. The former president, at a launch of a think tank, Think Progress, further directed the NDC caucus not to participate in the approval of any loan without a clear purpose. But Alexander Afenyo-Markin says the move only smacks of bad faith.
It's an attempt to hoodwink Parliament and obstruct parliamentary politics in a way that will lead to a standoff. This particular facility, we've had several discussions as leadership, as committee, and both sides of the House have been well briefed. If all of us have the nation in mind, we'll rise above some partisan interests.
Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Drive Safe campaign.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
You have to drive safe because 7 persons are confirmed dead in an accident involving 2 vehicles on the Kukum-Kwapon Road in the Sunafo South district of the Ahafo region. What's even more sad is that officers of the Gorso Fire Service Station sent to rescue those involved in the accident have also been involved in another accident. The Ahafo Regional MTTD Commander DSP Eko Gezi explained to our sister station Adum News all 7 persons on board a taxi heading from Kwapon to Kukum died when it collided with a diesel tipper truck.
They were traveling from Kwapon on to Kukum that when the driver got to a section called Obaya, it collided with a man-driven tipper truck. All 7 passengers aboard the taxi cab lost their lives. The driver's mate of the man-driven also got injured and were rushed to Goso Municipal Hospital here.
Well, that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News. And we're told that this death toll was 7. Now we're told it's risen to 8. Continue to drive safe. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. And Akufo-Addo directs Finance Minister to engage IMF for economic support. Rise to the occasion. Fix economic problems. Professor Ade to Akufo-Addo. Also, no debits from bank accounts without Ghana card authentication from July 1. Dr. France of the BOG. That's and more on myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensah up next.
Hello, please, am I speaking to Miss Joanna Kuma?
Yes, please.
My name is Philip and I'm calling from MTN. Someone has just sent you money and we will need you to enter your PIN number so that we can put the money in your account.
Hey,
Hey, oh, Dada, MTN will never ask you for your PIN. Never.